Alrighty, it's Matticus versus Ollie. This is the second semi-final. It's the first game in this best of 5. We're on Everdream. We have got Matticus the Terran in the top right. We've got Ollie the Protoss in the bottom left. I'll zoom out some so that we've got a nice big view of what these players are up to. I know it's been some time since we've had any StarCraft action. I'm hoping that the other semi-final, which started and we got one game of, but it didn't kind of progress from there. I'm hoping that the other games of that will happen soon, and we might even get to set up our final before the end of term. Obviously, things have been a little disrupted with the whole COVID-19 lockdown and all of that sort of jazz. So, Ollie perhaps looking to build a very sort of weird sort of forward wall off perhaps on this map. This is quite a big area to wall off, and you've got this way in as well. I'm not sure about this. I think I'd prefer just the pylon back here and build my wall here, but we'll see what's going to happen there. There's no production buildings done yet, but look, Ollie does have this gas coming down, but no, I don't know about this, Ollie. I don't know. Matticus not taking any chances with the supply block here, with all sorts of supply depots being built. Barracks coming in, gas already being mined. So yeah, Matticus is very soon going to be in a position to build a Reaper, and we'll see if that's what he does build, because Reaper's a very handy unit to start with as Terran. Get the Reaper out and you can get across the map, you can get some scouting information. I don't think that's a wall anymore. You can see, look, there's a gap there. Yeah, so instead has actually used the gas to build a reactor, and you know, if I see somebody go reactor this early, I generally think to myself, that's going to be an aggressive marine push. If that were the case, though, I definitely wouldn't expect to see 2 gas, because marines don't cost any gas. So not sure about this build either. What is all this gas going to be for? If we keep an eye on the gas, you probably find Matticus is going to find himself in a position where he can't really spend his gas. Meanwhile, it's Ollie with the faster expo, is just building a single zealot at present. Is going to throw the side core down. You see, with these pylon placements, this side core just, it feels really exposed this far out the front. Anyway. It is going to be Ollie that first goes across the map and does a bit of scouting. So these 2 Marines are going to shut the probe down pretty quickly, and I don't think it's going to get into the base and see anything other than the fact that there are 2 Marines. I don't think the probe got forward far enough to tell whether or not there was an expo here. The fact that there isn't, I think, is pretty bizarre. There are 2 racks. This one is going to get the tech lab, so upgrades will be available from that, and marauders will be available from that, but still Marines coming out 2 at a time. So I do wonder whether or not Matticus has the intention of being aggressive pretty early on. It's quite a lit expo coming down here, you know, with 2 racks in a factory already finished before the CC even starts. I would call that pretty lit, so I expect something aggressive. Still some zealots coming out. I'd like to see stalkers, really. You know, you've seen that your opponent, actually you haven't, to be fair, you haven't really seen anything from your opponent. The Twilight console is all good. The gateway's coming in. This Twilight console will allow upgrades to zealots, things like charge, and if he is continuing to build zealots, that's what you'd expect to see. Has transitioned onto stalkers, and stalkers, you know, I mean, charge zealots are great. If you're against Marines with marauders, I think stalkers are probably the better choice, but you know, blink stalkers are great, charge zealots are great. Either way, the Twilight console is a good choice. It looks like Matticus is going to try and catch up economically by putting an early 3rd down. You know, so the worker in position to do that before this CC has even finished up, and that is interesting. Hasn't got the orbital command upgrade just yet. I do apologize for my ropey scrolling about. I'm so much more used to playing StarCraft than I am casting it, that, you know, I tend to just kind of scroll really jerkily and stuff and just kind of pop from one place to the other without really thinking about how comfortable or otherwise it is to view. I'll try and remedy that if I can. So the worker in position, but actually no expo just yet. This is a fair old number of units, and I'd kind of like to see Matt do something with them. They're sort of parked at home here. You know, you went for that early reactor. You've pumped out quite a few Marines. I'd like to see you being a bit more active on the map, a bit more aggressive with those. You know, march across the map, see if you can snipe a few units, see if you can get something done. Maybe see if you can deny and expand, or possibly snipe a bit of tech, or yeah, whatever. The Zealots, you can see that charge is on its way, and that helps a great deal. I don't believe the tech lab has done a concussive shell, because that's kind of a pretty good counter to charge Zealots. If you've got concussive shell for the Marauders, it slows them down, takes the edge off them, and those Marauders are so important as a sort of backbone behind your Marines, to just add a bit of heft to your force. Marauders, you know, they're 125 and they're armoured, so they really can take a piss in a way that Marines can't. It's not a bad scan. Sees the Twilight console, sees that there's a forge upgrading. That's all useful information. You know, arguably that doesn't really tell you a vast amount, but yeah, it rules things out. What you didn't see a couple of Stargates or something like that. So you know, if somebody spent money on a forge, they've spent money on a Twilight. If they've got a Twilight console, they almost certainly don't have Stargates. So Matt should know from that he isn't likely to be faced with air. He isn't likely to have Void Rays or something coming at him. These siege tanks, I think, are stuck here. I'm not sure if Matt is aware of that. I don't think they can get out. I think he needs to lower this depot. It does look like they should be able to path around there, but I don't know, just the position of them makes me think that perhaps they're stuck. Anyway, could do with them being sieged up, because these charge Zealots are going to come in here pretty hard, and with no upgrades really. Combat shield is done, but the lack of concussive shell is a bit painful here. You can see the Marauders stand strong, but you know, if these siege tanks were part of this battle, that could have made a massive difference here. The Marauders are going to have to run, and the siege tanks hopefully aren't going to do anything foolish. This is not the time to siege up. No. So, you know, there's a little bit of, this one should be sieged up. There's a little bit of micro to be thought about there. Siege tanks, you know, once units are on top of them, you do not want them sieged up. He needs to lift this so that the stuff can't get in here. This siege tank just pounding away at this stuff is doing huge amounts of work. I mean, it doesn't really have a lot of kills yet, but it sure has softened everything up. Siege tanks actually have a higher DPS when they are not sieged than when they are. So, you know, going into an engagement like that, you want the siege tanks unsieged. The time you want your siege tanks sieged up is when you've got other units in front and the siege tanks can sit at the back. The siege mode gives them such superior range and gives them the splash damage as well. So it looks like this game's over. You know, Matticus is mining well, but with all of this Protoss stuff on top of his production, he just can't get the units out to actually see this off. So it is going to end, and I feel it could have went differently. If those siege tanks were involved in the fight from the start, there was definitely potential for him to hold this off. If they were sieged up even in this position so that his units could have retreated back into here, he definitely could have seen this off. Had he been more aggressive earlier when he had that army advantage, this game might have gone differently. But as it stands, it is Ollie that takes that first game with this reasonably robust, I don't know if I would call it a timing attack, but you know, certainly a good solid push with just gateway units, and I think +1 was done for them when they pushed. +1 armor done. And +1 armor is the right choice if you know you're against the Marines. So yeah, a pretty solid opening game from Ollie, and he's going to be pleased with that. You know, Matticus, frustrating when you're in this position where you know you're still mining, you know you've got the money in the bank to produce an army, but you just cannot get the units out fast enough because you just don't have enough production, and no amount of building new racks is going to fix it. So there's the GG, and it is 1-0 to Ollie. Very nice.